Hey everybody, welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is, of course, March 2019. Joining me as usual for this 106th episode is my partner in crime, Joe.
Hello.
Hey. All right. So, hey, we got a great docket for you once again. And we're going to be talking about the Renegade Studios is doing an English version of. And I'm really try to butcher this. Glem More II, the Chronicles, because it sounds simple, but I'm pretty sure it should be pronounced something different, but I don't know. Then Renegade Studios, Wizkids are to make a wardlings RPG, which I don't know about wardlings, but it's wardlings, miniatures sort of thing. Yeah.
It was Glem More II, by the way.
Okay, so I was close to it.
Yes.
D&D Stranger's D&D book, to capitalize on the kind of connection that is within this series. The Labyrinth adventure game is going to be coming out, a Labyrinth RPG, as best described it. And Labyrinth from Jim Henson's Labyrinth. Wizkids has announced Europa Alpha Base, which I misspelled on the docket, and Usaoploy has announced a die-card game. Let me quickly, try to spell Europa, because it's a U and I put an R.
It's not a U, actually. It's E.
U.
Hold on. Give me a second. I have it somewhere here.
It's like E-U-R-O-P-A. Yeah. So it technically sounds
Europa.
I spelled an abomination of a thing that was completely, utterly incorrect. The words abomination and spelling come to mind when I looked at that.
You never.
Anyway. So it's another exciting docket of information, and after we go over our docket for the day, we'll go over our regular segments, which we do every week. Alright, why don't we settle on, to start out here, our first topic here, Glem More II. Renegade Studios is taking care of this, and this is an English version of this game, which I didn't know a lot about. It puts you in charge of your own Scottish clan. Yeah. The thing is, when you look at this book, it's a book, so I'm pretty sure it's some kind of, like, role-playing thing. But it's kind of like an odd-based role-playing thing, because it's leader can, while explaining your territories, increase your wealth in the Scottish Highlands, create a pasture for your livestock, grow barley, sell goods, gain control of landmarks. Includes 8 expansions that are further combined for new gameplay to the base game and carefully crafted leaders. Unless it's a board game.
No, it's a board game.
Okay, so it looks kind of like a book.
I'm looking on it at Board Game Geek.
Thank you.
And if you look at the pictures,
you can actually see more.
I think what looks like a book is just the outside of
the image I'm showing here. Yeah, like the image I'm showing here of the box, then I'm guessing looks very book-like.
Yeah,
you know?
There's a map. There's a main map. It looks like it's partially tile-based, and there's also meeples.
I'm curious as to the original language of this, though. Too is the thing.
Ooh, there's little sheeples. There's little wooden sheep you could use too.
Ooh. Well, it's interesting that we're getting it's like, okay, we're getting a sequel to the original. Great! I don't know much about the original. You know?
Yes, it says.
It was apparently Funtails originally did it. And sorry, let me get a drink here.
Okay, so the last player in line takes a tile from the track, advancing it as far as they wish on the track after paying the cost. They place this tile in their territory, with a tile activating itself, and all neighboring tiles stream production of resources, movement points, and victory points. And the player who has the last line takes their turn.
So, apparently this game was originally in German. So a German company doing a Scottish game.
Mm-hmm.
And Again, it's like one of those one things. It's like, oh yeah, Glen More. What?
It looks cool. The art's really nice.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that it doesn't look really interesting. It's just like that. Yeah, it's a sequel to a game I didn't even know about, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting that way, but also, yeah, it's
Chronicle 1: The Dragon Boat Races.
Oh, here we go. I finally had to look up Glem More because I didn't before. Oh my god, that is... It was from 2010, so it's not that old.
Looks interesting.
Yeah.
It's a resource gathering game.
Yeah, it's a resource gathering game. It's got an interesting setting of like the Scottish Highlands where you are dealing with what you would find there. And the fact that the game, it's the base game you are purchasing comes with 8 expansions that you're free to combine with to add new gameplay to the base game. It tells me that it's sort of like... I wouldn't even call them expansions because it's included. I would call it more like 8 optional ways of playing.
Yeah, I'm seeing 5 of them. Like, there's the Dragon Boat Races, the Great Glen, Hammer of the Scots, Simple Male, Single Malt Whiskey. Single male whiskey, I almost said.
Single male whiskeys.
And the Haggis.
Oh, God, yes. Of course I've got to have something called the Haggis.
The Haggis!
The Haggis!
The Haunting of the Haggis.
2 to 4 people. The thing is, it's supposed to take an hour and a half to 2 hours to play, so it is a larger game, a longer game. Yeah. So, like, in your first game, definitely give it even, like, 3 hours. You expect to be
with
playing.
Setup, learning rules.
Oh, yeah. And I guess... I'm guessing the original Glen More game had a following, that the follow-up is like, hey, we've improved upon it. Again, it's like one of those things is like when you don't know... It's like when people would say, like, Settlers. I'm like, I know Settlers, so if someone would do, like, Settlers 2, The Catanier. I'd be like,
Catanier.
I'd be like, okay, I got an idea what that's all about.
We're more Catanier than you are.
But, like, I hadn't heard of Glen More, so it's like, I hear about it, and it's like, okay, you've got an improvement on the base game. Great!
Right.
I mean, I'm glad that, like, the German group, Funtails, was able to come up with a contract with Renegade Game Studios to get a much more global production of this game. So, I mean, that's great. And the thing is, it's not coming out quite yet. We're gonna have to wait a little while. Where it's basically like Renegade Studios has announced, hey, we're doing this now. You know, we got a hold of it. We're making this English version of it. You can enjoy it if you've played the original. So,
right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Sounds like it would be an interesting game if you like some resource management. I don't mind the resource management here and there. And it's definitely something different than, like, your classic Settlers. So, that's good. But, I think that's all I have to say about this. You got anything, Joe? More?
No, looks interesting. I'd keep an eye on it.
Yeah. So expect that later this year, the English version of Glen More Chronicles. Or, if you're interested in it and you can read German, I mean, go ahead and ship in the original. I'm sure they might have international shipping somewhere. Alright. But we do want to move on, of course, and talk about Wardlings. The Wardlings RPG. Let me get that.
Yeah, it says miniatures. It's a pre-painted miniatures line consisting of children adventures and their companions.
So that's interesting sounding. So it's like children adventurers. So that's actually interesting because of the setting you have to think of it is, because they're doing an RPG version of it. Because this is Wizkids and Renegade Game Studios combining together to create the RPG setting. They're using 5th edition, so it's going to be 5th ed D&D compatible. Because I guess that's like it's an easy system to learn, and since Wardlings is based upon the idea of like kid adventurers kind of thing with their companions.
Right.
It sounds logical to go along with the, I guess, easiest to learn system.
Yeah. I mean, the designs are really nice on them. You can see it's kind of, just the art style of the miniatures. You can see they're probably made for like a younger audience.
Yeah.
Cartoonish.
Yeah, a little cartoonish.
Which isn't a bad thing. They're very well done.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's not like, something that was made to be super realistic.
But it's interesting because, like, I don't think I've ever really heard of Wizkids or even Renegade Game Studios really diving into RPGs. I mean, Wizkids works with RPG companies like D&D and such.
Right.
But they don't really do the actual RPGs. They're product lines.
Right, but this isn't really an RPG,
that's
though.
That's true.
Minis for one.
And this is a setting based around, like, the idea that the minis have established that, yeah, here's a wardlings world that you can play in.
Right.
So I guess that is a lot easier to build because you're just world building and then using 5th edition rules that if there's any kind of special rules you want to put together, it'll be based upon 5th edition, which is already established. So, like, classes, feats, and things like that, or other options or spells,
Yeah, I'm just looking at, like, I'm looking over, like, what the companions are because I was just curious. Like, the rogue gets a badger.
Yep.
The druid gets a tree creature companion.
Yeah.
Ranger gets a lynx.
Mm-hmm.
Fighter gets a battle dog.
Ooh, battle dog.
Wizard gets a genie.
Ooh.
Cleric gets a snake companion, but it's a snake with wing. Oh, winged snake companion. Sorry. So interesting.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think this is a good thing in a way because, again, this is definitely more kid friendly. Because you're doing a product line that is specifically made to be like probably for a younger audience to begin with, and using it to make a 5th edition adventure. So, again, it's not like you couldn't play 5th edition with kids. 5th edition is good enough that you can play with some pretty young folks. Our friend of the show and friend of the channel, Rachel, she works with kids and does D&D with them, and they do a good job. And so I think this is something that would just... It gives you a step in that right direction, that if you want to do a game with a younger audience, maybe this is for you. Or it probably would be interesting for a lighter game, too. Like a very light, toned game. It might be fun to, like, do it with this kind of thing. Definitely. I mean, there's definitely
I'm just curious if wardlings is a thing outside of this, or if it's just...
Oh, outside of the miniatures that...
Just because with the artwork, it almost looks like it comes from a cartoon.
Yeah, that's
true. Like, but I'm not seeing anything. Like, I've just looked up wardlings, and it's only mentioned Wizkids stuff, so that might have just been their concept art.
Yeah. It's the wardlings product line that they came up with. Because it does look like they're showing off at least... 2 different characters on the Renegade Stites things. They got, like, it kind of looks like another type of cleric with, like, a winged cat creature and another ranger with, like, a dog thing on Wizkids, or I'm sorry, Renegade Game Studios site where they're talking about.
Okay, I'm only on Wizkids site right now. So.
Yeah. So I think they probably have done announcements,
Yeah.
So, I mean, expanding the character line this way also is maybe interesting, so that maybe they might have, more characters. And this is something that came out last year anyway, so, I mean, they're at least capitalizing it pretty fresh, since it came out literally March of last year. Was when the original Wardlings miniatures line was released, so... It's neat. Definitely different kind of campaign too. because there's always that like stigma of it's very hard to play very young or very old characters in an RPG, unless in case you're something like this, which your characters are made to be young, you know, and have that kind of situation. So,
right.
I will be excited to hear more about how they're going to, what they're doing for the setting, and what this means to whatever kind of rules or stuff they're putting together to relate to it. Because most times, even with the base settings, there usually is one or two things that people put together to, like, mechanics-wise, to add to the setting. So, I'm going to guess they probably have done that. There's a good chance of it. Anyway, so Wardlings, keep an eye out. It's coming soon from Wizkids and Renegade Studios. Let's move on, though, because Stranger Things. Now, I am unfortunately unfamiliar with Stranger Things. Familiar with it that I know the show, but unfamiliar that
you haven't watched it.
I haven't had a chance to watch it. You know, it's rare that I can see anything from Netflix, so I don't actually have Netflix. So it mostly consists of, like, you know, borrowing or watching with other people or something like that. So, out of my normal wheelhouse. But, you know, I am familiar with it and that they enjoy Dungeons & Dragons. And Joe, you said you saw the first season?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I saw it when it first came out. I have to catch up. I have to actually catch up on the show and rewatch some of it probably to get everything back. But
I think the second season's out, and I just saw something about the announcement of their third season. So they
I know the second season's been out.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is the Stranger Things Dungeons & Dragons starter set. And they're doing a Stranger Things adventure. It's got some essential rules for the role-playing game, so I guess some basic rule book. And you're supposed to be experiencing what Mike Wheeler, the adventure he created for his friends in Stranger Things, is basically what it is.
And you get 2 exclusive Demogorgon figures.
Yes. I guess they have characters that are with it, too, because it's got the adventure book, the rule book, 5 character sheets, 6 dice, and the 2 figures, including 1 paintable.
Yeah, so it's 5 Stranger Thing character sheets, but it doesn't look like they're written on. So I think it's just pre-printed character sheets.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like,
I don't think it's pre-generated characters.
I don't know.
Oh wait, no. I'm looking at it a little closer. It looks like some of it might be filled in, so they might be pre-gens.
Well, yeah, because I think it's supposed to be the characters that the characters in the show used. Because they mention Will the Wise and Dustin the Dwarf, and I'm like, I'm sure those are the characters they used, and I don't know them because I haven't seen it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, like, investigate the castle, deal with Demogorgon. I mean, the little figures, it's hard to, like, let me see it, like, as close-up.
The Demogorgons? They're awesome.
Yeah, the one figure is really cool because it kind of got, like, a painted. The other one, I guess you could paint your own colors that you want to, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about Stranger Things, it's Cthulhian.
Mm-hmm. Kind
of horrors that they're kind of fighting.
Yeah. So it's definitely a Demogorgon that's different from if you're familiar with D&D, the Demogorgon that people will mention. It's a Cthulhu kind of.
It's the Demogorgon from the show, not from D&D canon.
Yeah, because D&D canon is a giant two-headed two-headed baboon monster that's the greatest of all demon lords. If you didn't know that, fun fact.
It's silly looking. This one's actually scary.
There have been some okay pictures of Demogorgon, and then some really, really stupid one. Oh, yeah. The stupid ones take the cake every time. Every time you see one of them, you're like, I can no longer take you serious, Demogorgon.
It's like, I'm not afraid of you. You look ridiculous.
Yep. It's just... Yeah. Oh, Demogorgon. Yeah. I'm just... We'll let him be. We'll let him be in his entire, like, double-headed apiness or something. I don't know how to best describe it.
You want some double-headed apiness, so admit it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
No, I don't think anybody really does. I'm just going to say that. Anyway.
Well, whoever designed it might.
Oh my god. Blame Gary Gygax. Uh-huh.
Okay, I didn't know if he personally designed the first one or not. Well, sometimes it has different heads other than Baboon now.
Yes. It was one of the first two Demon Lords making debut when Orcus in 1976.
Oh, God. Gary, what were you smoking at the time?
Both appeared in Eldritch Wizardly, a third supplement of the original D&D box set. Yep.
Like I said, Gary, what were you smoking at the time?
And they returned in the Monster Manual for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons in 77. Well, I mean, I've got a picture that is showing the original version of them, and I have to say, if you've ever seen 60s, 70s Ultraman monsters, that's what he looks like. But again, a lot of weird D&D monsters are based on 60s, 70s Ultraman monsters. I know this for a fact because I remember hearing about it, that like Gary Gygax and whoever else, I can't remember his name right now because I never remember the other person that was working on it, had gotten a bunch of like the really small plastic Ultraman toys from Japan that were like really like little like toy figures and used those as implements for a bunch of monsters. That's where the Boule came from. The Boule with modern art looks a lot cooler. It was stupid looking back in the day.
Oh yeah, I just put a link to the one of the Demogorgon pictures of with the obvious baboon heads, I should say.
Yeah.
And tentacle hand.
No, yeah. Here is the link that shows the original picture, and enjoy it, folks. Enjoy it. That is, just have to scroll down a little bit and find it.
Oh god, it looks like a happy bear with tentacles.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, no, tentacle armed happy bear and chicken feet.
I don't know who would be afraid of that. I guess it's supposed to be a baboon because of the stripes on its nose, but it almost more looks like a polar bear head with like partial baboon features.
Oh yeah. It's like, go look up any of the first edition D&D monsters. I really want like a copy of the first edition D&D like monster manual because the pictures are just wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But getting back to Stranger Things, so it's the Demogorgon from the show. And it's all about the adventure that was there, which is investigating a mysterious castle and battling the fierce Demogorgon. Because you're getting like a little bit of like classic D&D along with Cthulhuian horror mixed together, which is kind of interesting. Without going, I think it's not going full direction on either of them, which is an interesting mix, that finding a good balance. And I'm guessing that it not only shows popularity, but people probably asked about this kind of thing because they might have really liked it, and, capitalizing it sounds like something the Hasbro would do.
Yeah. And it's also taking a show that's very popular, and, that has mentions of D&D in it, to probably, to kind of promote itself.
That's true. So you can expect this to go on sale officially on the 1st of May. So you got people have like a month and a week away about. So it's a little bit of time to prep yourself. It's $25, but it is like an actual like box set too. It's not just the adventure, so it's kind of interesting that way.
And you're getting 2 figures.
Yes, you get the 2 figures, which are pretty neat looking.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. Stranger Things, the D&D role-playing game starter set, coming soon. Let's move on, though, and I want to talk about Labyrinth. The adventure game. So, when I first heard about Labyrinth, the adventure game, I was thinking to myself, okay, it's like another board game. And then I read up more on it, and I'm like, it's a new RPG that players can use to create their own stories in that magical land. I'm like, oh, it's an RPG system coming out this year.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was surprising. If you look at the book, let me get the picture of the book up and running here. The book looks really cool. I mean, I do have to say that. It's got like a good... oh, that's not the right thing.
Oh, it's a D6 system.
There we go. Okay, so it's a D6 system?
Yeah, because all you need to play is the Labyrinth book, quest module, pencil, one or more 6-sided dice, and a scratcher paper for taking notes.
So it's probably a fairly simple gaming system, which is not a bad thing. I don't mind a simple system. Oh, like I see, like, they show that, it looks like the book has an area where 2 dice are hidden in it.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, you know, it's supposed to be that it can be very useful for experts. We're just fans of Labyrinth. We're not role players. With a very streamlined rules system. The thing is, we know a little bit about it. We know it's a D6 system. We know that it's coming out later this year. God, gotta be a little bit more up. Let me see if I can find the next update on it.
Can I play David Bowie? Not the Goblin King, just David Bowie.
Sure. I'll play David Bowie. That sounds fine.
I make a crotch attack.
Mm-hmm.
Or a singing attack. One or the other.
Crotch attack.
Come on. No. His crotch was the star of that movie.
You could be Michael Motion.
That means I have to be behind him.
You have to put your arms around David Bowie.
I'm hugging David Bowie and playing with giant crystal balls.
At least you're not playing with...
I almost said that in a very non-good way there, because I almost said I'd play with David Bowie's
crystal ball.
Yeah.
I was going to actually comment on that before you interrupted me.
Ooh.
Now that seems like a very interesting role-playing game. I mean, the other year we saw the Princess Bride RPG, and that was a very interesting system. And the thing is,
I still want to try that still too.
I agree. It seems like a fun one to try, and hopefully we will be soon. And the world is a very interesting and bizarre world. And the thing is, like, if you read into Labyrinth Village, which I did a couple of times, there is more information that was produced after the movie. Not a whole lot of it, but there was a couple other materials, like, things like comics and stuff, that were produced, that expanded upon some of the stories and stuff like there. So it's not just the movie that's a good source, and I don't know, like, how much they're going to take as canon is the only thing. That's a very good question.
Yeah. I'll be Bluto. How's that?
Yeah, there was a four volume comic series that was produced.
Bluto happy.
So, I mean, it's definitely a good world to use. I'm going to say that. That's the first thing. It's a good world. A simple system is probably what's needed. I am just curious what kind of characters you can play. Maybe you can play something like Bluto or one of the other companions.
Yeah.
Or would you play something along the lines of like the Goblin King too? Because the fact is, like, the expanded material, again, if they do use that, focuses more on him and his story, kind of like after that.
Right.
So I'm really curious. There's other materials that's based on Labyrinth that have been in development, but who knows where that's going, and hopefully...
But we can't have David Bowie back.
Oh my god! I actually found something here. Okay, So, hey, there was a sequel to Labyrinth that was in the works with Jim Henson's daughter and David Bowie's son serving as co-producers on it to assist in it.
Oh, that's cool.
And the script was finished in 2018, in October.
Oh?
So it hasn't been done long. So it did take them like 2 years to actually finish a script, but maybe if they have like, you know, those names behind it. That's the question of like, what are they going to do, because we're way past Jim Henson and way past David Bowie, but that's an entirely another story that could be an entire like thing of it.
We'll use a holographic David Bowie.
I mean,
hey, it'll be easier for Michael Motion.
I think who is still alive. Thank you.
He could just stick his hands through the hologram.
Yes, that's true. A CG David Bowie.
No, holographic.
Oh, well, you know. Whatever.
As cool as it would be, it would have been great if they could have done it when, like, he was still alive.
Yeah. But he died. They started working on 2016, and he was still alive.
Right.
So I don't think his death was expected, and that might be also why they had to delay it until the end of 2018, because he died.
Right.
You know, it's sort of like, well, that happened. Now we have a problem.
Yeah. Poor David Bowie. We miss him. He was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, actually, no. He died around the time they started the script, because that was 2016.
Okay.
Actually, they'd started the script, so maybe they had to work out what was going to happen, and that took a while to figure out what was going on because he passed away. Like, they started writing it, and all of a sudden, like, well, shit! Now what do we do? Okay, so the screenwriter's describing it as a spin-off of the same universe. So it might be like in the same kingdom or something, not focusing on the Goblin King himself, but some other figure that might be there. Interesting. Anyway, but Labyrinth, the adventure game. Let's get back to that. It's great material work. It's like, it is a very good movie. If you haven't seen Labyrinth, I do suggest seeing it at least once. I can understand how it might not be everybody's cup of tea. That definitely is a lot of movies. I feel like it would be more people's cups of tea than, let's say, something like The Dark Crystal.
Oh, God.
The Dark Crystal is good, but again, it's like, it's dark Muppets. It's the best way to describe it.
It's super creepy.
It's Jim Henson diving into the creepiness factor of his puppetry.
I mean, I used to have nightmares with Labyrinth, but that was because the Boggins who could take themselves apart, I used to have nightmares that they were trying to take my head off.
Yeah, They are creepy.
They're creepy, but they're fun at the same time.
Yes.
And, their bodies disassemble. It's like, hey, we can do this all day. Doesn't bother us.
Yeah. I think that's the entire thing about Labyrinth itself. It's fun yet creepy at most of the same time. Like, a lot of the things, if you really like think about some of the stuff, there is definitely a dark undertone to a lot of things going on too. But it's like it does it in the right way, I think, and that's why it's a very good movie that unfortunately never got really anywhere. I think it's more like a cult hit. Yeah, I don't think it did very well at the time, but and now that they're doing an RPG on it, because I think, didn't we talk about a Labyrinth, like an expansion to the Labyrinth board game a while ago, and now we have an RPG based on it, so it's sort of like, well,
I have no problem with that. Give me more Labyrinth.
Maybe I can accept that too. So, yeah. We will definitely be seeing more of this book as it's going to be coming out later this year, and maybe we'll know more about what's going on with the Labyrinth, the adventure game, which, I'm sorry, it's so interesting, because every time I say that, I keep thinking that it's a board game, but it's like, the adventure game! No, it's an RPG. Get that in your brain. The title makes me think not RPG. Anyway. So Labyrinth, coming out later this year. Let's, though, talk about a new announcement from Wizkids, because this one sounds a little interesting. Europa Base Alpha. So it's set in a kind of fictional future where, you know, people have begun to colonize various places in our solar system, and you're going to be in charge of colonizing a base on Europa. So exactly the namesake of the game. We're each making our own base upon Europa, and we're going to be the biggest, strongest network of bases to win. So it's actually not just one base, it's like a network of bases. It's who colonizes Europa, Jupiter's moon, the best.
All your bases belong to us.
Exactly. And you use dice and cards to build your bases. You roll the needed resources, and the cards help in a variety of ways. So I can see it's like rolls of dice are for resource gathering, so it's that random chance of something like Settlers, but then you have like all these cards which you can use to help yourself or hamper other players, so that adds like a different, so it's got 2 layers of things going on at a time. So it definitely has a little bit more of that like resource management vibe we were talking about earlier with Glem More II, but it's, instead of a Scottish feeling, it's a sci-fi moon base, though it's a moon of Jupiter rather than a traditional moon.
It's actually only like a 4-round game too.
Yeah, only 4 or 3 rounds depending on how many players you have.
Yeah.
You total your points from the bases you built, subtracting points from any corner tokens earned during the game. I guess if you like wanted to like cut a corner and do something a little quickly. And the thing is, it's not far off in the future. June 2019 is when they're saying it's going to come out.
And it's game time is 45 minutes.
So it's not long at all. I'm guessing that there's just a lot in depth in each of those rounds.
Yeah. And let's see, 36 dice. It just says tokens, doesn't say how many. 92 cards, 4 player boards, and rules. And MSRP is $50.
The rulebook is not finalized yet, they say, so they don't have it out yet. But I'm guessing the rulebook will be coming soon up on the page there. So Wizkids is usually pretty good about putting the rulebooks up eventually anyway, so you can check out the rules before you check out a game, which is actually, I think, one of the best things I think about Wizkids, and one of the reasons I like talking about them, because they do things like that. That's a really good one to have, like the rulebooks that you can just download for free. I mean, that's another thing, is like if you would lose a rulebook or something or get damaged, guess what? You get another copy of it. It's great. But no, it's a really interesting little game. It looks like it's going to be, the thing is, it's going to be $50, and I'm curious. Like, I guess it's a lot because there's a whole bunch of dice and cards and tokens that it's that much.
There's 32 dice in all, 80 cards, 4 player boards, 25 tokens.
Okay.
Oh, and it says, I'm looking at the back of the box on their site. Mm-hmm. It also says Invaders Expansion.
Okay,
so it comes with a built-in expansion. Okay,
so that's also very interesting. The idea of the built-in expansion is such a weird little thing.
Well, I guess it's basically adds another layer of complexity to the game.
Yeah. So it's like, it's...
You don't need to play with invaders, but you can.
I still think it's not really an expansion. It's like alternate rules.
It's an alternate mode, yeah.
Yeah,
but it sounds like you're getting more bang for your buck if you call it an expansion.
That's true. I guess that's very true, that when you call it an expansion, it does sound a lot better, you know. Which is fine. I mean, they're including something else in there that they're not charging you extra for.
Right. So well, they probably are, but that's probably as part of why it's a $50 game.
Probably. They're basically like, we can charge a little more because we're also including this. Hey!
Yeah. Otherwise, it might have been a $40 game.
That's true. That actually is very logically true, that it would have been 40. And it's interesting that there's different types of bases that will require you different types of resources, so it's going to be a lot of luck on what you roll and what you can build and all these things, and, you know, getting your network together. It seems like it's got a couple layers of strategy, which I do like also.
Yeah. And it might have been like they were they were talking about possible things to do with it, and, you know, maybe it's just the timeline lined up that, hey, we can actually just make this, you know, put it all in the same box instead of having to come out, you know, a few months later with a mini expansion. Because it might be just a small thing, too.
No, that makes perfect sense, that they're just like, this is what we have to put together, let's just do it, you know, here you go, kind of thing. And that's, again, it's not a bad thing. I think that's actually a pretty decent thing and a pretty good idea. I guess, you know, I do agree with you. The little bit of cynic in me does worry that maybe they're charging a little more than they would have if they had sold the two individually by themselves.
Well, but they're probably charging more for the initial game, but the expansion probably would have been a $10 expansion. So you're probably getting both for the price you would have paid for both.
Yeah, I can see that. I just
it might have been like $39.99 and $9.99.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. I can see that. I just, you know, it was like a little bit of that cynic was like, maybe they would have charged a lot more. You know, maybe it would have been like 40 and like 15 or something. Or
right.
Like,
so you probably, they're probably, with it being, oh yeah, they could have possibly charged more too, because then you're also talking about the price of extra packaging.
Or like, the thing is, it could go either way, though, is the other thing too, because it could be like, you know, 40 and like, a $7 expansion. So that's not a lot of money, but it's like $3 or something, because the Invaders, depending on what's in it, could have been like a micro expansion, you know, or it could be like a major one.
Right, but I'm just saying it could also be cheaper than having.
Oh yeah, no.
It's probably also cheaper for them to have it all in one box than had to have separate. Had to come up with pay for separate packaging for a small expansion.
Oh yeah, no, they probably don't have to design a box, set together a separate set of rules, go to the printer for all of these things, put together, you know, a separate box completely with all of its own components.
Right.
It's the one thing that people forget when creating something. The more volume you do, the more the people that make it like you and will give you a better deal. So if they're getting all these pieces together at one time, and all this stuff together at one time, it's probably cheaper than doing two separate sets of things.
Right, because not only you have to pay for all the extra things of the costs associated with building the box, extra box, and building this and that, but also, like you said, designing the box. Well, then you're paying your designers to design something else on top of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's even more money. It's exponential. So it makes sense if it's a small expansion and it's ready at the same time, just come out with it in the same box.
Yeah. So, no. Europa Base Alpha. Keep an eye out for it. It is, of course, coming soon. I believe I said it was coming out. If my brain would work again, I think I forgot where I said it was coming out. Oh, June 2019. Yay!
Yeah. You saw that better than I did. I just saw 2019, so...
Yes, it's on their formal, like, announcement kind of page rather than the product page. So it's, like, interesting, like, Cold War moon base building.
Doesn't get much colder than space.
Because no one could hear you scream. But they could possibly hear you scream depending on where you are in space, but the chances of them hearing you scream are actually pretty low because it depends on the material you're going through and the situation. Like if
where there's a medium for you to yell through.
Exactly. Like, and the thing is, if you lean two helmets next to each other and scream at each other, you would hear each other.
Yes. Or if you put your helmet up against a ship, you might be able to hear things.
Exactly. Look at that. But anyway.
Thank you, science.
Science.
And now for something weird from Usaoploy again.
Usaoploy has managed...
Which, just by their name, you wouldn't think they would be doing anything other than Monopoly style games.
Yeah, it definitely is like a weird. Give me a second here to mute me on stream.
You're not. Oh yeah, you might be muted on the stream.
I muted the stream.
Okay.
She wanted to be here. My niece was showing up, but
Streamies.
but she's a source of disturbance, and she's not well behaved yet. If she would be well behaved, she could have stayed around. But
She's a destructive 5-year-old.
6-year-old now too.
6-year-old now.
But still destructive as all heck.
God, she's getting. I can't believe she's that old already.
Yes. Anyway, Die Hard, the Nakatomi Heist board game.
So it's based off the original movie.
Yes. One player takes the role of John McClane, the rest become the Hans Gruber's gang, looking to stop at any cost.
The problem I see is everyone's going to want to be John McClane.
Yes, so it'll probably be a random draw for characters. It's the only
I
way
know,
to
but
do
it's
that.
just like, I want to be John McClane. No, I want to be John McClane.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting dynamic that it's a one versus many game, and the thing is, it's a 2 to 4 player game. They say, so it's sort of like it could be 1 versus 1 or 1 versus 3. I'm sure.
Which I think is interesting. That it's just like that. It's not possibly more. Since he was taking on a whole big gang.
I guess it's supposed to be like the gang leaders you're playing, so maybe someone would be Hans Gruber, and another one would be the whatever his name is, and the other one would be his brother.
The big muscle dude.
Yeah, and then the other one would be his brother who got killed like right away, but was like probably an important member of the gang. Yeah.
Nah, he was stupid.
He was setting up the bombs! The bombs!
60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So a little bit of time, but I think that's to be expected with a 1 versus many game.
And this is the first Die Hard licensed board game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did, that's like, when they say that, I'm like, yeah, I didn't see it before.
I think it's interesting that, it's taken a hell of a long time for something to happen.
Yeah, I mean, consider this, that it is just after the 30th anniversary of it, because it was out in 1988.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has technically not been out, like... It's an appropriate time because of that, as a 30th anniversary, I feel, if they started producing it then. So, I mean, that works, timing-wise at least. It's a 30th anniversary is what people think about sometimes, so... So it's like rules and gameplays, like air vents and other callbacks to Die Hards. It's for the scenes, characters, and events. It's all about that.
And you have to literally walk on broken glass.
Probably there probably is something about walking on broken glass if you're John McClane.
No, I mean while you're playing the game.
Oh. And then, God, I can't remember the line. It's like, come out to the coast, it'll be fine. He's pulling out the glass out of his foot or something,
Yeah.
Look,
and then he steals a dead man's shoes.
Yes, then he steals a dead man's shoes. Look, Bruce Willis has always done a lot of good jobs. He's done some awful things, too. But I've never quite blamed Bruce Willis for those awful things. It's just a paycheck.
Yeah. Hey, not every script you agree to that you think's going to be good is good.
Yeah, and some of them are just like, well, I could use the extra money.
Yeah, I mean, he's not that bad. He's not that bad at doing movies that seem to be just a paycheck, though.
Yeah,
like
no.
some actors are.
Yeah,
some actors are just like, you want me to do that? Sure. Like Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson just does everything, and he's Samuel L. Jackson at everything.
He just was. He's like, you want me to do something? Sure.
But the thing is, he is just Samuel L. Jackson in everything he does.
But he also cares about. He also cares about what he does.
Yes.
He fought on snakes on a plane
to
keep the MFer line in.
Yes.
He said he would have dropped out if they would have to cut that line.
No,
that's the best line.
So the game's coming out spring, so it's actually coming out very quickly to some select retailers, so it's probably like some places, and then you can get it on your own.
I wish there was some pictures of it.
They don't have a lot of information yet. They're saying spring, too, which means it could come out as late as June.
Yeah, true. It's just like, I want to see what the board looks like. This is up my alley. I love that movie. I wouldn't mind trying this.
Yeah, and the one versus many aspect of games, it's a different aspect because most of the time that's like the one usually is like the villain going against like the heroes. So the opposite where it's so that's also another interesting dynamic. And I will consider this both a year-long game and, if you want to be festive, a Christmas game.
Because, everyone agrees Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie, but it's a Christmas movie you can watch any time of the year.
Yes.
Action is year-long.
Well, it just happens to take place at Christmas.
Because it's a Christmas movie. Like Gremlins happens on Christmas, so it happens to be a Christmas movie. Look, Christmas movies tend to be awful. Don't take these away from me.
I'm going to give you a mogwai.
The amount of goddamn Hallmark movies that happen around Christmas.
Oh, God.
Awful. Awful
Hallmark
hell.
Hallmark Channel.
My mother watches those. The hell of the Hallmark Channel in their Christmas movies. Oh. Yeah. But anyway, no. So, yeah, some of the people that have been working along with Fox and some of the other board games that Usaoploy seems to work on are working on this game, so it seems to be a decent team. Yeah, and the company itself has created other products for other lines. Again, we've talked about Usaoploy a couple times in the last couple of weeks in a mixed bag of materials. I believe we agreed that Yes, that was the one that I was gonna sugarcoat around, the It Clue game.
Yeah.
We talked about about a couple weeks ago, and so Usaoploy, they are definitely given some interesting announcements. I mean, the bad guys, Talisman Batman was an interesting one, which they announced the other week too. So I mean, it's like this is their big announcement time of year, I guess, and we're coming up with a lot of interesting products. But I guess this is one of those ones that I would definitely put a big thumbs up to. Though technically now, I guess it's a Disney product line.
Yes.
The deal finished this week, and it was 20th Century Fox, so Disney has
Avengers vs. Die Hard.
John McClane's just like, I'm out. I'm out.
Darth Vader versus John McCain.
John McCain? You mean McClane?
Or McClane.
You had a deceased U.S. Senator.
Yes, I misspoke.
Then we could Bernie's him to fight Darth Vader. And just put like big puppet strings on him.
No, let's let him rest in peace.
No, we must fight Darth Vader.
John McClane should fight Darth Vader.
The corpse of John McClane. I just want to see like the Duel of the Fates.
We're going off the rails on a crazy McClane.
A McCain, thank you very much. Please, someone do that somewhere.
No, please don't. Let the poor man rest in peace, goddammit.
Rest in peace. Anyway, yep. I don't want to say it's an interesting sounding board game. I would love to hear more about it, and I guess we're gonna have to see more from when it's getting closer to come out, and then we'll know more of it actually, the components of the game and such like that. So, Die Hard, the Nakatomi Heist board game, coming soon. Keep an eye out for it. If you're a big Die Hard fan, definitely. If you're a fan of the asymmetrical board games also. So, that's it for our regular segments, though. Joe and I are going to move on to our regular segments.
Yes. We're going to move to our regular segments.
Yes. That's all for our weekly segments, our weekly topics. Let's move on to our regular segments. So, deeper discussion. We don't have one this week, but hopefully either maybe next week or the week after that, depending on when we can actually play. Because if we're going to do the game I got, I would rather do it with more than two people kind of thing.
Right.
But I got a copy of the newest board game that Atlas Games is coming out with. It'll be coming out soon. It is... Atlas Games. Godsforge. Send me a copy of it. We're going to check it out, review it, give you guys some information on it, so expect that coming soon. So thanks. I'm going to thank ahead of time. Thanks, Atlas Games, for sending us a copy. We'll check it out. We'll give our opinion on this one, because it's a interesting-looking game, definitely. Combining some card game and sort of Yahtzee-inspired dice mechanics, they say. So it's kind of an interesting mix of things. So I guess it's a little press-your-luck dice mechanics combined with cards.
Cool.
Interesting mixture of things. Let's talk about Kickstarter Korner. So, Joe, do you have a Kickstarter for us over the past 2 weeks that's still going, I guess?
Well, bam.
Ooh, he had one ready and will and enable.
It is called Jabberwocky.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's basically a 5-in-1 card game.
Okay.
So you have 3 Jabberwocky cards, 15 number cards, a rule book, double-sided reference cards, and a schnazzy box. And in it comes a solo game called Bandersnatch.
Okay.
You can play all with the same components. So it's cool that you can play multiple games with the same stuff.
Yeah.
Then there's Bandersnatch is just a solo game. Then there is Borogoves, which is a 1-2 player map making game. You have Gyre, a 2-3 player area control game. Mimsy, a player Mancala game. I don't know.
Look, speaking English hard.
Well,
I'm not going to be the first.
It's
to
also
not deny that.
it's the Jabberwocky. It's based off the Jabberwocky poem. Come on.
Okay.
And then
God. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Slithy, a player negotiation game. That one's the 3 to 7 players.
Okay.
So you have a lot of different types of games you can play with it. They are at $969 past goal.
Mm-hmm.
They have 13 days to go. And they've done a bunch of different games, apparently. I've seen some of these on shelves. I've just never played them. Like Lady and the Tiger, Village Pillage, Dracula's Feast. I can't read that. Hidden Panda and Scuttle.
Hidden Panda. All right.
And with any of them, you pledge an extra $23. You can get one of the other games. But even the basic $19 pledge, which is just the game, that's not bad. If you do the $39 pledge, you get Lady and the Tiger, which is their last game they created, and Jabberwocky. And I think there's something that actually can combine some of the elements of both. I was reading.
Okay.
So, seems like a very interesting game. The artwork's really cool.
Yeah.
And who doesn't love a little Wonderland?
I mean, as long as you don't get too much of it. I'm going to say that much. When everything is Wonderland, it's just no longer a wonder.
Well, as long as it's not Underland.
I mean, then you're just like below ground, And you're like, well,
no, the new movies.
really?
Yeah, they stated in new movies, it's like, when you were a kid, you thought it was Wonderland. It's Underland.
Huh?
Yeah, the newer Alice movie, they stated it's Underland. It was their take on it, that when she was a kid, she misunderstood and thought it was Wonderland because everything was wondrous.
Huh.
I guess you haven't really seen them.
No, I avoided it.
Yeah, the Cheshire Cat tells her that at one point, that, when you were a child, you thought it was Wonderland. Well, you think about it, she does go through a hole in the earth, so it is under.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yes. I do want to give 2 special shout-outs for me for Kickstarter Korner today. I want to give a shout-out to Japanime Games, is running a Dominia Anthology Kickstarter. They've given us some products to check out before, so I just wanted to give a shout-out to them and that they're working on this material here. It's funded, so even if you want to check it out, go ahead. There are some good people that have sent us some stuff before. I did want to also give a shout out to Gamers to Go running Critical Core RPG, which is an RPG specifically designed to help kids with the autism spectrum build social skills and confidence. So I wanted to give a shout out to them, who've reached over twice their funding to do that. So I mean,
very nice.
Those are very cool ones that I definitely wanted to shout out, just because they're good ones to keep an eye out for. But the one I wanted to talk about today was one that caught my eye, just because it's one that I wanted to do with... excuse me. I think we've sort of talked about a similar one before, but it's interesting. So I wanted to talk about Capers Noir. It's an RPG system up on Kickstarter. It's funded. They didn't have a lot of money to fund it. They didn't want a lot, so they've more than funded. It's an RPG about criminals, cops, mysteries, and then monsters and superpowers. So it's a noir game. It's like a supernatural noir game.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's 1940s, World War II, monsters have crept in, like the corruption of that, and so you've got now superpowers and monsters showing up in like this kind of both criminal and cop setting kind of thing. The thing is, they talk about it that Capers Noir, they have the Capers RPG, which they had a 1920s Prohibition era RPG before they had done, and this is their noir setting, so it's set in 1940s, and you can use materials from both of them. I think you can, with some of the pledges, technically get both also. Like a $23 pledge, you get PDFs of both of them. So if you didn't have the one before, you get the other one also. So it's a very interesting one. More character options. If you already had the other Capers game, that's what it is, like expanded rules, new powers, additional guides. It's not it's really made to play along with the kind of base game they put established before. So it is more of like an expansion than anything. But I think we've talked a little bit about noir, but it's a different take on noir, which it is one of the newer genres to get RPGs. Not that you couldn't play noir before, but I feel it's like one that didn't have a lot of RPG representation on its own.
Right.
And now we're getting a lot more of it. That's the age of Kickstarters. There was another one that I do want to talk about, but the Kickstarter hasn't started yet, so I was saving that one. Because there's a giant robot RPG coming out. And I tried to make a giant robot RPG one time, and it did not go well.
Is it a robot or a robot?
Robot. Robots are laters. But, so, Capers Noir, it's, got 19 days to go. It's $5,000 out of an $800 pledge. They did not want a lot of money. So, and if you're just looking for the book that they have now, it's $10. And for Capers Noir only. There's some other things, like there's the $10, $13 pledge, a $23 pledge, and there's some more. Or every Capers product up so far for $35. So
Cool.
Yep. Anyway, as my Kickstarter that I wanted to shout out, let us move on to our next regular segment. Our week in tabletop. We had 2 weeks, and it has been sparse. I have to say that. Because I did not do Vampire or D&D for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we've unfortunately had some player issues.
On both ends. Like, it just has been bad luck. Like, the week before, one of my players was gone, and this week, I was out most of Tuesday and got back far later than I was expecting. And then Thursday, last Thursday, we had 2 people with medical issues, and this Thursday, we were missing the one character that I don't think they were needed, but for what people wanted to do going forward, they needed that character, basically. It's sort of the thing is like, it's...
We would have needed him.
He's your tank, and
he's our tank and our
charisma
person.
And
I would have been a neutral charisma person because I have a 10 and no bonuses.
And your only other person has
persuasion.
You do have a person with like an 18, but no bonuses. You know, so they could have Signy could have rolled, but Signy's character is also the least talkative out of all of you. She's not really like a negotiator type of character.
Right.
So, yeah, things would have probably not gone well. And then we missed last week's session because you were getting back late and no one was free anyway. So
yeah.
And then did we do the week before that? I think.
Yes.
What did we do?
We only missed
1 week there.
1 week, yeah. Oh no! Last week we did.
Sundays at Tabletop, where we played Dixit.
Yes.
Yes, we got a chance to play some Dixit, and Dixit is always fun. I definitely highly recommend that one as a fun little game. And before that, we did Colt Express. The week before that, on the 10th, which was also fun, even though
that one I missed.
Colt Express was difficult to play in the situation that was established. Unfortunately, like, the setup was a little harder, and it took us a little bit to get, like even reading through the rules, it was, there was just little, like, complexities about it that we had to pick up that we weren't as great on. Dixit was a little easier and fun.
Right.
So, there were 2 good games for Sundays at Tabletop, and I can't remember what we did on the 9th. Saturday the 9th, the last time we had the show. What did we do that evening? I don't remember. Yeah. I think we just did some quick games. Didn't we?
I don't remember.
See, that's what the problem when we miss a week, the show. We forget stuff. Especially me, because my memory is like, la 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 la, thing goes in, la la la, thing goes out. And then I'm like,
yeah, it happens.
Anyway, so it's a very, strangely enough, 2 weeks with not a lot of tabletop. I know, for people that do a lot of tabletop normally, 2 weeks without it's just been kind of quiet. Oh, but that's okay. It happens.
But it happens. It is what it is, and it is what it is.
Yes. But let's move on, though, because we have Consult the Table, where you, the audience out there, if you have a question that you feel like requires a little more work and discussion to answer about any kind of topic from tabletop, including board games, RPGs, card games, collectible card games, something nerdy-based, like with our off-topics about various things, if you want to dive into a question about one of those, go ahead. we'll answer that one too. Anything that between the two of us, you were asking the question, and we feeling like it's appropriate, we can't answer quickly and efficiently right in front of you, when we get it, we'll throw it up on here and talk about it. And if you want to throw us a question, you could be here in chat and throw us the question that way. Thanks, Rachel, for the host right at the end here. Discussing Tabletop at yahoo.com. Either of our Twitter accounts, which is down below our names, at Dracovin for me, at JWSeeker81 for Joe, at my Discord channel, which is linked below. It's fine. It's one of those days. You showed up, which is great. We got a conversation for it. You missed a lot of cool stuff. Yes. Better late than never is always true.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, you can ask us a question on any of those things, and we'll answer to the best of our abilities. Yep. You get a star. So, anyway, remember, check out all the kings we talked about today. We talked about Glem More II, coming an English version of the German game about Scottish settlers of Catan. Well, it's research management. The Wardlings RPG, a RPG using 5th edition rules that's more for kids, by Wizkids and Renegade Studios. The D&D Stranger Things box. The Labyrinth Adventure RPG coming soon. Wizkids Europa Alpha Base, another resource manager. Of course, Usaoploy's Die Hard game. And all the Kickstarters we talked about. Check all those things out. If you need any links for these, they will show up when I throw them up on YouTube, which I know I'm a couple weeks behind on YouTube for Discussing Tabletop, but I'm going to try to get those together now that I actually have more space to work with on the computer, because I got a new hard drive, external one, to transfer a whole bunch of the crap and videos that I'm keeping from this show and more. But anyway. Thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Joe. Always glad to have you with me.
Always glad to be here.
We'll both be back next week, of course, and we should be back tomorrow evening for Sundays at the Tabletop if you want to catch us there. And the various other RPGs and streams I will have over the course of the week. Any other my links down below. So have a great one, folks. Bye.
Bye.